July 1917. Over the Somme, the light is hard and white. A thin cloud sheet flattens the sun into a bright plate. Air at working height is cold in the lungs. Below, trenches, communication ditches, gun pits, and roads sit as angles, not symbols. From this height, geometry decides men. A red Fokker doctor eye holds inside the glare. Manfred von Richthofen checks horizon, then sun. The sun sits a little aft of his left shoulder and throws light through thin cloud. He slides the triplane until the disk sits just off that shoulder. The glare erases edges. Goggles fog. One knuckle clears them. The rotary runs tight. No chatter in the mount. Needle steady. The vibration speaks up the stick and into his ribs. Belts snug. No rattle. Off his left, a British patrol tracks its line. 2 RE-8s with cameras and observers. 3 Sopwith camels escorting above and a touch behind. Spacing is good, not exact. The left camel sags half a length and a hand's breadth of height, twice in 2 minutes. Habit, not accident. Habits become openings when sun and angle agree. He does not rush the dive. He lets gravity start. He adds only what gravity misses. Upper wing wires sing once, settle again. Sun stays on his left shoulder so the camel eyes work through glare. He waits for a reflex every pilot has, a small chin tip toward light to confirm position. The lagging camel does it. That is the cue. He closes to a useful picture. Engine fills the sight ring, fuselage still small enough to keep time for exit. Both span us. One short line. Strikes rake cowl and upper panel. The camel rolls left, loses lift, drops out of station into a controlled fall that becomes a lack of options. He does not watch it finish. Shallow roll. Up into the bright. Approach and exit use the same light. The second camel widens its turn. Widening feels safe, opens a lane inside. He cuts the lane. Nose raised a finger's width to steady closure. Short burst. Strikes. Engine roughens. The pilot commits west. He declines the chase. Chasing offers the ground a target. The RE-8 crews see more red than exists. Thin cloud scatters color, glare smears it into copies. Observers call conflicting headings. They climb for cloud. Escorts split attention. Formation becomes singles. Engine note flattens by a hair. Enough spent. Nose up. Back to height. Wingman sits off his right a little low, far enough not to block, close enough to help. Small circle in the bright. Eyes reset to horizon and sun. Belts thumb-checked by feel. Fabric at wing roots gets a quick look for soft spots. Air holds. He reacquires the patrol. He does not shoot camera ships first. Remove the outside escort that keeps their nerve. Sun on shoulder. Approach masked by glare. Close to shore range. Short burst. Exit on the line chosen before firing. The escort breaks job and position. The RE-8s stop working and start surviving. He lets them go. Trading height and light for luck is a bad bargain. He briefs by behavior more than speech. The law is short. Attack from the sun. Pick the lonely wing. Close to sure range. Short burst. Early exit. Guard the exit line. He repeats it until men can say it plain. He learned height with horses before wings, save effort before a fence, leave early after it. In the air, buy altitude in smooth, spend it only when it buys certainty, keep a reserve to leave. Roles in his flight are simple. One protects the exit, one holds spare height, one draws a guard wide. They swap jobs as needed. Red paint is a reference for friendlies in glare and a warning to enemies. Paint is not the point. Method is. The day gives thin cloud that makes windows of glare. In those windows, one airplane can feel like 3. He does not count on that. He keeps the method and lets weather add effect. Wind at height backs a few degrees, drifts left to right at 10 knots. He notes it twice. Wind is not rumor. Wind is a bill. 2 spads appear high, covering 2 older BE types. The spads weave fast. Speed covers small errors. Then it doesn't. On the 3rd weave, the left spad's loss lasts longer than its gain. He slides deeper into glare to reduce detection time, holds 1 extra count of altitude, so approach is steep enough to compress the shot, but shallow enough to keep the exit. The pilot glances to check his wingman. Engine fills the ring. Short line. Strikes mark the right wing route. The nose dips too far, then hauls back. Energy spent faster than bullets. The 2nd spad commits to cover and shows too much top wing. He declines the invitation, leaves, resets above the sun line. He re-enters only when engine note and altimeter give permission, not because appetite asks. 4 seconds. Both agree. He slants back in 10 degrees offset to alter prediction. The 2nd spad crosses the ring, half burst. A twitch. A claw for air. Exit. Seconds of clean work beat minutes spent badly. Over a German battery that just moved pits, he uses the method in reverse. The battery commander wants cameras denied. Richthofen puts the sun where it protects him and spoils photographs. He watches for dull fabric flashes in peripheral vision, cuts only when a camera ship straightens and an escort sags. One does. A short line pushes the escort off. The camera ship turns away on its own. Enough done. On the field, fuel by funnel and cloth. Oil-topped. Belts drawn. He doesn't count rounds. He counts belt links because fingers catch miscounts quicker than math. Fuel smell says full before the gauge agrees. He tells a pilot who overshot exit by 10 meters that 10 meters cost. Want is not a metric. Permission is engine and height. He runs a ground drill. Chalk ring on hangar wall at the size an engine fills the sight at proper range. Pilots bring the ring to the mark, call now only when steady. He times them. He builds short into hands with empty belts. He stops anyone whose shoulders try to talk longer than fingers permit. Back up. Haze thins. He climbs 200 meters to keep sun on his left shoulder. Wind backs 2 points. Drift will push an exit toward a river bend where ground arcs wait. He flips exit to the clean side to deny a free angle. SE5s now. 2 high, 3 low, covering 2 RE-08s. The leader is tidy. No lag on offer. He watches 5 cycles and writes a small truth. The 2nd low SE5 gains early, loses late. He builds an approach to intersect the late loss. That means holding glare longer and arriving 5 meters lower than usual. He accepts the cost. He adds a shallow slice back to keep exit on the safe wind side. Late loss arrives on schedule. Engine in ring. Short line. The SE5 wobbles, ailerons twitch. The leader commits to cover. He lets the leader commit to the wrong space while he exits on time. He logs sorties by numbers, not adjectives. Altitudes in, out. Seconds inside. Seconds to exit height. Rounds expended. Stoppages. Engine temps. Wind drift. He logs 1 correction and plans to check it tomorrow. Evening air bumps enough to spoil heavy hands. He lightens grip and trims closure with throttle so he doesn't pitch away accuracy. A camel pair crosses, one steady, one nervous. Rudder dabs, small nose wander. Nervous pilots overflare when surprised. He holds sun and time until the nervous one shows the overflare when the steady wingman glances away. It happens. He cuts diagonally and writes a short line that breaks nerve more than wood. The pair goes defensive. He leaves. Ammunition saved is permission later. From the other cockpit, the day is noise. A camel pilot writes that white plates of light sat above the lines, and red appeared in them, then behind them. He called 2 headings in one breath, said 3. When one existed, and spent 30 seconds clawing for station while looking at pale. He records short of information, not fear. It is correct. The light took it. A flat day comes. Light goes faithless. He doesn't force the method into weather that won't carry it. Fast flyers patrol where speed matters. He sits with the armorer and checks a feed spring that feels honest. He rejects a tired belt, changes a firing pin, cleans trays. He keeps the law small so it survives bad days. Sun returns. He climbs. He watches a recon pair try to cut a corner home. The escort's weave leaves the camera ship alone for 4 seconds each cycle. 4 seconds is a tunnel. He arrives for the third 4 and writes one line that turns an escort into a passenger. He leaves. No shot at the camera ship. The canceled photograph is enough. He eats ordinary food. He writes short letters. He is well. Weather workable. He speaks only when it fixes something. Spacing, sun use, burst length, exit honesty. Staff returns for doctrine. He draws the small sun circle, approach line, exit line, blind wedge. He explains the look-up reflex as a timing cue. He moves the circle with a pencil point while he speaks steps, sun, approach, range, burst, exit. He tells the captain to make pilots feel short with their fingers. Nods happen. Boards look complete. Hands decide. He teaches shepherd work. Wolves eat well and die at fences. Shepherds bring men home. Exit discipline is loyalty to law and to tomorrow. He repeats it until the sound bores him. Boredom trains better than applause. Evening drill. Sight ring on a cart rolled across the hangar at walking speed. Pilots track the ring to a chalk engine, say, now, without wobble. A metronome tick makes nerves audible. He cuts an eager pilot's imaginary burst mid-trigger. The pilot's face goes tight, then loose. The lesson lands. He visits a wrecked RE-8 site. Fabric torn. Spars cut. Fuel line scorched. He stores the picture to add weight to short. He returns without speech. He draws the circle and lines again. Months later, under heavier sky, he breaks his law. He starts correctly. Sun at shoulder. Approach from glare. Short burst at close range. The target turns low and hard. The right answer is leave. He stays 2 seconds past the number. Ground rifles, patient and indifferent, write a line through his path. Control fades at the end because physics won't barter. The field takes the airplane. Men run. Curiosity first, respect after. Reports reverse the order. The price is fixed. His unit paints red again and teaches the law with the error inside it. They do not hide the 2 seconds. They hand the number to new pilots as a number, not a headline. Not to shame a name, to prevent a copy. They draw the circle, lines, and add a small tick mark labeled leave. Trainees say the word out loud. Engines advance. Wings stiffen. Dials multiply. Radios improve. Eyes remain the same. Eyes still betray men who look up carelessly. Attack from the sun stays true whenever a sun exists. Altitude remains currency. Close range remains arithmetic. Early exit remains loyalty to the men who expect a leader at breakfast. Training moves to a cleaner field with better concrete. Instructors with no famous paint teach the same sequence because it still returns pilots to the hangar. Sun on a whiteboard. Approach line. Exit line. Blind wedge shaded. The instructor taps where a pilot's chin will lift. Empty belt drill builds short. Sight ring drill stands next to a stopwatch. Wire gets thumped for tune. Fuel smells confirm full. Students who turn rules into performances get their performances turned back into rules. A British letter written long after lists practical things. The observer writes he saw red inside the sun and then behind it. He believed it was 3 and learned it was 1. 2 men called 2 headings, both true to each man in glare. He felt like a camera on a board that kept tilting. He does not say courage or cowardice. He says information and how quickly light erased it. A German pilot says his leader once drew the sun's circle and moved it half a chalk width while looking at his eyes. He learned to fly his airplane the distance that chalk moved in the sky. He lived to be dull and made students dull and alive. A mechanic says the leader once ran fingers along a belt like counting beads, then put it back as tired. The mechanic felt nothing wrong. The pilot came home next day and tapped his shoulder twice. The mechanic began to call parts and people tired, when they looked honest but weren't. Another fight. Layered cloud at 9,000 feet, broken at 7,500. Clean below. Wind west 10 to 12 knots at height, less below. He holds at 9,200. Sun barely aft, not ideal. He shifts to put it off his left again. A camel ladder under the cloud. The top camel checks late. He runs a short yo-yo, up, nose over. Down through a bright slice, arrives behind the late check. Short line. Fabric puffs, then streams. He doesn't pasture the fall. He lifts into cloud, takes a bump, exits into a second light slice, repeats at the next rung. He declines a third bite. Ladders are full of angry hands. Quartering headwind. Dust on a road. 2 BEs, 2 SE5s. He wants the outside SE5. Tidy pilot, denies a lag. Tiny contradiction. When he glances left, the tail wags and wastes speed. Patience buys that waste. He waits for the third wag. It comes. He drops, writes a short line, leaves as the other SE5 finally understands. No chase. Method over appetite. Debrief holds numbers. Fuel smell changed near last landing. A line gets flagged. Wind shear added 2 seconds to exit. Noted. A pilot wrote a long burst. Assign empty belt drill. Another drew a clean exit. Say so once. One good sentence can fix weeks. He doesn't sell invulnerability. He says ground is as dangerous as sky. Weather lies by omission. Radios fix less than a chalk line and a hand drill. Dying because you broke your own timing is preventable and breaks units worse than bad luck. A training day in good weather. They practice the attack with safed guns. Each pilot flies the approach, calls range, calls short, executes exit. The instructor scores only the exit. The shot without the exit is incomplete. They practice lonely wing selection. 2 escorts weave, 1 sags, see it early. They practice no chase low, fly to a chalk line on the field, and climb at that line no matter appetite. Appetite fails tests. Discipline passes. On a map, a river bends through a village. Bends attract ground fire. Pilots follow rivers. He draws an X where a man who loves water will die. Do not draw lines on the ground with your eyes. Draw them on a board with your hand first. The board has fewer funerals. Dusk cools the field. Fabric relaxes. Wires ping softer. He presses a palm against the left wing root to feel trapped heat. None. He breathes out. He keeps the law small and ready. He cares less about color than about a repeatable sequence that brings men to breakfast. A new scene begins with a weather change. Morning haze sits at 4,000 feet, clear air above. Wind from the south at 8 knots. He climbs through the gray to sun, sets it on his left shoulder, and watches shadows move off the haze like a slow tide. A patrol of pups escorts a 2-seater. The pup pilots are tidy but light. They hold altitude well and overcorrect yaw. Overcorrection becomes entry. He masks in glare, slips behind the outside pup's correction, and puts engine into the ring. Short line. He sees the pup shiver and choose the wrong recovery. Rudder first, then stick. It wobbles, then holds. He leaves and climbs. The 2-seater turns away. No need to press. He meets a mixed patrol in broken cloud, Sopwith triplanes and camels. The triplane leader checks the sun more than the camels do. He notes discipline. He looks for fatigue elsewhere. The trailing camel's aileron balance looks off. Roll response lags a hair. He chooses that one. Approach from a slice where light breaks into the cockpit and shakes the pupil. Short line. He sees canvas lift at the aileron hinge. He exits. The remaining escorts contract around the damaged one. The job is done. Another sector brings an escort of Nieuports for a lens-heavy recon. The Nieuports work the vertical better than the turn. Good. Vertical work leaves brief, predictable silhouettes against glare. He holds the sun steady, lets the high Nieuport drop through his cone, and prints a short line at the bottom of its swing. The pilot jerks the stick too hard and wastes altitude to keep wings level. He doesn't stay for a second print. He climbs away and resets. 1 pass per truth is enough. He spends time with belts again. The armorer offers a belt that looks fine. He runs fingers along it and feels a fray resting under a seam. He returns it. Tired. The armorer frowns, replaces it, learns the word. Another afternoon, wind quartering, a British patrol runs a shallow echelon. The last camel drift corrects late against crosswind. Late correction is a door. He times 3 cycles, confirms the pattern, and enters during the late phase so that his own drift carries him through a safe exit. Engine in ring. Short line. The last camel slides out, fighting the crosswind and the burst at once. He is gone before anyone can turn where into there. A letter from an English observer months later lists dull details because dull is honest. He writes the wind at altitude felt like nothing but changed the way his exit looked. Writes that sun off the wing made instruments useless for a second. Writes that he saw more shapes than existed and called a heading his pilot couldn't use. He includes no adjectives for courage. He lists numbers and times. He was right to. He adds one more drill to training, a blind wedge drill on foot. He places 3 cones in a field to mark an escort's blind arc relative to sun. Pilots walk the arcs, then look back into the sun and read what they cannot see. He makes them say, "I cannot see," out loud. Naming ignorance keeps men honest. Another fight arrives with better opponents. SE5s with sharp leaders. No lag offered. He waits for logistics instead of errors. Fuel use is visible in how men climb. A ship that climbs under half-tank climbs like pride. Later it climbs like history. Late in the patrol, the outside SE5's climb angle reduces by 3 degrees across 2 minutes. He measures with his eye and confirms with closure. Time. That is fuel talk. He enters once, writes one line that forces a choice, leaves. The choice is to try to be yesterday. They fail, but survive. He does not press men who already know they are late. A century later, the fields of Flanders are quiet again. The trenches are grassed over, the ruins rebuilt. Tourists walk where soldiers once drowned in gas, their laughter mingling with birdsong. But when the wind rises and the clouds darken, locals say the air still tastes faintly metallic, as if the earth remembers. Ypres endures not as a story of victory or defeat, but as a warning. The moment when civilization proved it could destroy itself in the name of progress. The first gas cloud rolled out of the German lines in 1915. It has never truly disappeared. It lingers, invisible, in every fear of chemical war, in every weapon born of science without conscience. And so, the Battle of Ypres remains what it has always been. Not a battle for land, but for the soul of humanity. They did not die for glory. They died for breath.